for myself. But I just find it absolutely fascinating that my great-great-great-grandfather was a captain of a ship. And now I'm off to, hopefully, find out what happened 9 miles off Kessingland.
The library in Lowestoft holds copies of local newspapers from the mid-19th century.
March. That's June the 5th. Okay, so it'll be on, maybe on this one. The Great Storm, the Great Storm of Monday. Upwards of 100 vessels wrecked and lamentable loss of life. During the height of the hurricane on Monday, about midday, 8 ships, having from 40 to 50 souls on board, went down, and not a hand was spared of the crews. And this was tragic. Off Southwold, a large brig was seen to founder 8 miles from the shore, and the worst fears are entertained for the fate of the crew. Oh my God. I think this Southwold large brig, 8 miles off the shore, has to be the one that George Jesard was captain of. I'm sure of it.
The storm of May the 28th, 1860, was one of the worst the coast had experienced, with reports of snow blizzards 100 miles away in London. Coming from Middlesbrough, George Jesard and his crew would have been ferrying coal to London when the storm suddenly hit. It reached its full and terrible height at around midday, when ferocious gales and mountainous seas destroyed more than 150 vessels. There were heart-rending eyewitness accounts of men out at sea, clinging desperately to the rigging of their foundering ships before they disappeared beneath the violent waves. Miles from shore, George Jesard and his crew were battling to keep the Hannah afloat, with little hope of survival. The library also holds a book on local sea rescues.
Thank you very much. Storm Warriors of the Suffolk Coast. Chapter 222. I've got it. Then Craigie ran off into the sea and found the Sandwich brig, Hannah, waterlogged, with a flag in her rigging. They took off the crew of 7, only just before she went down. Who is Craigie? Our particular Craigie was John from Southwold. So John Craigie was responsible for saving the crew of Hannah. And presumably, then, George, my great-great-great-grandfather, was saved as well. I mean, today is not a storm. We're not in a storm, but it's very windy. And I can see that ship out there that's come in, obviously, to stay still from the wind, but it must be listing 15 degrees, and it puts me in mind of what it might have been like during that really freakish storm. And I'm sure that George and his crew must have thought this is the end.
Knowing that George Jesard and his crew were all saved, David wants to find out more about the rescue and the man who saved his great-great-great-grandfather's life, John Craigie. 12 miles south of Lowestoft is the fishing village of Southwold, Craigie's hometown. David hopes to find someone who might know more about what happened.
John Craigie.
There is a John Craigie now.
Same name?
Same name, working on the restoration of the Alfred Corrie lifeboat down at the harbour.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Ah, that's it, the Alfred Corrie Museum. That's the one. Oh, hello.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm David Suchet. I've just come from the Southwold Museum,
Yes.
and I was told that if I come down here, I might be able to meet someone by the name of John Craigie.
You've met him?
You're John Craigie? Oh, well, hello again. Hello again. Well, look, I believe that a relation of yours, way back in late May 1860, was responsible for actually saving a relation of mine during that terrible, terrible storm.
Yes. This is he.
John Craigie.
He, in fact, is my great-grandfather.
Your great-grandfather?
Great-grandfather.
So your great-grandfather saved my great-great-great-grandfather?
Yes, that's correct.
Wow.
I have some more information up here, which perhaps you'd like to see.
I really would.
He actually went off in his own boat, the Fanny. It was a fishing boat, about 45 feet long, 15 feet beam.
So would this lifeboat have been the same sort of proportions?
She was about the same length and breadth. But on this occasion, they were using her to go out for salvage.
Yes.
Looking for vessels in trouble. And that is when they found the Hannah.
Oh, wow.
The document here records that the crew of the Fanny,
Yes.
with 9 persons, bearing down on the Hannah brig of Sandwich in a gale, taking off her crew, the Hannah foundered half an hour afterwards. This was May the 28th, 1860. They were awarded £1 a man for saving the lives of your relative and his crew. A lot of money.
Yeah, well, it was in those days, yes.
Caught in the centre of the storm, miles from shore with a fatally damaged brig, George Jezard and his crew had no chance of survival until Craigie stumbled upon them. The lugger was a much smaller vessel than the wind-torn brig, but in a raging storm like this was considerably more stable and manoeuvrable. Seeing a salvage opportunity, Craigie approached Jezard's foundering vessel to check if the crew had already abandoned ship. Discovering there were still men on board, Craigie rescued Jezard and his crew with just minutes to spare before the Hannah sank beneath the waves.
So extraordinary that your relation saved my relation's life.
I've known for many years that he was involved in a lot of rescues, both with the lifeboat and with his own boats.
Yes.
But to my recollection, I've never actually met anyone who's descended from people he's saved. So it's mutually very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yes.
After the dramatic rescue, David's ancestor George Jezard returned to his life on the sea.
I've discovered where my love of water comes from. George Jezard. To go to sea when he was 14 years of age, dedicating his life to the water for 38 years. What a life it must have been. And if he wasn't rescued by the Craigie family, he would have died. And because of what I know about my past, it's always been centered on, if you like, my foreignness. And knowing about George has given me an English identity far stronger than I would ever believe I could have.
Having explored the ancestry of his English grandmother, David turns to the origins of his much-loved maternal grandfather, press photographer Jimmy Suchet.